but it was a mixed result for U.S. stocks as investors keep some of their powder dry, perhaps waiting for the next move from the Federal Reserve and, of course, Friday's big jobs number release. Courtney Donohoe has the market highlights from the New York Stock Exchange. Courtney.
Well, a mixed day for stocks, pulling the market lower, a drop in tech stocks, but moving it higher. Hopes the Fed will step in with some stimulus. And it's coming off the first of the jobs reports this week, leading up to the government employment numbers coming up this Friday. Well, we got a disappointing report from ADP saying companies cut jobs in September for the first time in 7 months. We saw a drop of 39,000 jobs, but economists, they were expecting a gain of 20,000. But it's high unemployment that we're seeing, putting the brakes on a sustained recovery. People don't have jobs, or they're worried about their jobs. They're not going to go out and spend cash. But this may mean that the Fed will step in and do something to give a little juice to the economy, like the stimulus steps Japan took yesterday to weaken the yen that was hurting exports. Well, in the past week, we have a few Fed presidents, New York, Boston, Chicago, coming out and advocating further action to stoke the economy, Pimm.
All right, now, Courtney, following Japan and currency issues, I know you've been looking at that. Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner, he was speaking earlier today about global currency policies. What did he have to say? All about currency wars, it seems.
Exactly. Well, he didn't mention any country by name, but the Treasury Secretary said a damaging dynamic of large economies keeping their currencies undervalued that can cause inflation and asset bubbles. Geithner said more and more countries, they face stronger pressure to lean against the market forces pushing up the value of their currencies. And he says currencies, they're a multilateral issue. It's much easier to solve the issue if countries coordinate their policies. Well, Brazil's finance minister last week, as you mentioned, warned of this currency war. But we've not only seen Japan, but South Korea, Taiwan, Brazil, Switzerland intervening in the currency markets to lower the value of their money to stay competitive. But we'll see what plays out when the IMF and the World Bank meet this weekend in Washington.
All right, a race to the bottom. All right, Courtney, now tell us about stocks, though. You mentioned that the drop in technology stocks, what happened there?
Well, Equinix plunging in trading today, 33% drop to $70. Data center operator lowering its full-year sales forecast yesterday. Company underestimated the amount of churn in its forecasting models. Now, churn, that's customer retention. Plus, the company discounted to keep renewals. And Savvis, which also provides data center services, that also dropped, even though the company boosted the lower end of its forecast. And I want to quickly mention M&T sliding today. Allied Irish is saying it's going to start selling its stake in the lender in a public offering. Allied Irish has been weighing options for the M&T stake to raise money. Ireland said last week it's going to take majority ownership of the bank, and that's a second bailout for the lender, Pimm.
All right, thank you very much. Courtney Donohoe reporting from the New York Stock Exchange.